Alright, good morning class. Today we're going to be changing our focus from studying the Middle Ages, also known as the Dark Ages, into the period known as the Italian Renaissance, or more commonly known as just the Renaissance. This beautiful piece of music you've been listening to as you've been journaling this morning is by arguably one of the greatest composers of the Renaissance, Josquin des Prez. The piece is entitled Ave Maria in 4 voices. The question that today we will concern ourselves is that is the Italian Renaissance a unique occurrence, or is it just one, and the greatest, of a whole series of Renaissances that have been affecting Europe since the fall of Rome? This period has been noted as scholars, poets, historians, and other such type people as one of the most unique and momentous occurrences in all of human history. But is it really? Before we can answer this question, we need to actually define what the word Renaissance is. Can anyone tell me what the literal translation of the word Renaissance is? Courtney?
It means rebirth.
Great, yes, exactly. The Renaissance is French for rebirth or restoration. In this class, we will be extending this definition just a little bit to mean an intellectual, philosophical, technological, and religious flowering caused by the introduction of lost information back into a society. This term, or the term Renaissance, was coined by Richard Burckhardt in the 19th century. Burckhardt was one of the first of the modern historians to give serious study and consideration to this time period. Now, back to our original question. How unique is this period? Burckhardt claimed that this period was utterly unique in human history, yet more modern scholars have disagreed, citing 3 major examples. The Northumbrian Renaissance of 650 to 750 AD, the Carolingian Renaissance from 750 to 850 AD, and the 12th century Renaissance from 1300 to 1400, roughly. Now let's talk about what factors need to be in place for a Renaissance to flower. First off, and most importantly, an area must be strong and have security. Survival cannot be the most pressing matter on most people's minds day to day. Whether the strength comes from military power, financial and economic power, or political power and security, or a combination of any of these, the stronger that a place is, the more likely that a Renaissance will emerge, as more people will have time to sit down and contemplate life, to create art, to think about theology, all of these things, not just how am I going to survive tomorrow. The second thing that you need is a connection to past knowledge. And thirdly, you need a confluence of competing ideas. Now, let us go back to our flowering metaphor. These two are the seeds. These cause, all of this knowledge has to be synthesized into society. Well, you can't worry about it if you don't have security, right? So the security is like the water, light, and soil that seeds needs to grow. And these two ideas are the seeds that will spur on the Renaissance. These two things cause problems in day-to-day life or day-to-day thought, and they must be resolved. This is what causes a Renaissance to emerge. Now, our first example of an early Renaissance is the Northumbrian Renaissance. It lasted from 650 to 750 AD and was located in the Kingdom of Northumbria. This kingdom is located in modern-day northern England and southern Scotland. It sort of spanned the divide. The strength that this country had was in both economically and military, and it stemmed from the country being a combination of 2 separate countries, both a Celtic country, or native Britain, their country, and a Norman country, the people who invaded England at an earlier time and were pushing the Celts out. It also had a lot of strength from its location. And this Renaissance was religious in nature. The second of the early Renaissances is the Carolingian Renaissance. It lasted from 750 to 850 AD and had its height under Emperor Charlemagne. Its strength stemmed from being the largest land power in Europe since Rome. Charlemagne and his successors and predecessors were the founders of the Holy Roman Empire. They were in essence able to connect Europe from France all the way to Eastern Europe, such as places like Prague. This also was religious and educational in nature. And the third and greatest of these early Renaissances is the 12th century Renaissance. Political stability had been restored in Europe. Europe was no longer facing nomad invasions from the east, from horse people. They had pretty much driven the Muslims out from the south, or at least stopped their advance. They also had ties to new intellectual centers. Right before the 12th century, the Crusades had just happened. Well, all of the Crusaders returning brought back a lot of new information and lost classical information and reintroduced it into European society. And again, this Renaissance was mainly religious in nature. And it was also, again, the greatest of the three early Renaissances. Now, in a few minutes, each of you will get in groups and we'll read some packets and explain to the class more details about those early three Renaissances. But first, I'd like to point out some major differences between those three Renaissances and the Italian Renaissance. All three of the early Renaissances started in the church and worked their way, if they had time, into other parts of society. The Italian Renaissance started outside the church. This is a very, very important fact to remember, and one of the reasons why Berthold claims, and other scholars with him claim, that the Italian Renaissance is unique. Also, the three early Renaissances were crushed before they could really change society as thoroughly as the Italian Renaissance did. The Italian Renaissance, however, lasted for well over 3 centuries and forever changed the face of Europe in its political, economic, religious, and just day-to-day structure of life. Now, I'd like you all to get in your work groups, spread throughout the class, and as you can see, I have prepared several packets of information for you over these three Renaissances. The task of your group is to read through these packets, pull out the most important facts like dates, important leaders, important facts about it, important inventions or things that came out of it, and also the factors that allowed it to emerge. Now, you'll have the rest of the class to work in your group with this. Your groups will present at the beginning of tomorrow's class, and you also have free rein as to what type of format you'd like to present this information. If you'd like to give it in a PowerPoint, that's great. If you'd like to do it in a song, or a poem, or a cheer, or any of these other type of creative things, that's great too. Just be sure that you hit all of the points listed on that form. Okay, let's get to work.